It's September 11th, 2025. And this is actually my second recording of the day. I just did 40 minutes. That was what you're about to hear right now will be the first one I do. I post. The second one will be the one that I already did. But I had intended to do an episode on September 11th to talk about what it meant to me and how it changed me and the way I think about the world now as opposed to then. And so I'm going to do that now. I did everything out of order today. I haven't even worked out yet. I'm just a mess. So let's talk. This is Trent Takes On 2.0. I'm Trent, and I talk about my takes on things. And sometimes those things are very serious. Sometimes those things are less serious. In recent times, it's been really serious because the world is a very serious place right now. And I just like that a lot. See, I grew up in the 80s, formatively in the 80s, and then I became an adult in the early 90s, and throughout the 90s, I was like, yes, this world can be a lot of fun if we, try. And life was easier. Things weren't dreadful. I could say all that because, I'm a white dude. I'm a straight white dude, and I don't have certain challenges. That's called white privilege for those who don't know. I have, ever since moving out to California, I've been surrounded by coworkers who have become friends, people of color, neighbors. I have had nothing but positive interactions with a couple of exceptions. And I've had just as many negative interactions with white people as with people of color since getting here, if not more with white people. I want to talk about this day, 9/11, September 11th, 2001. I was 26. I was working at an amusement park called Knott's Berry Farm. It is not a farm anymore. It is an amusement park now. And has been for a long time. I got that job when I was 19 years old. I had been out here in California for a very short amount of time, and then I got the job at Knott's. And I was working in entertainment, in the entertainment industry, doing theater, or technical theater. So the guy behind the scenes who's dressed all in black, who moves scenery pieces, or the guy up in the booth who's doing audio or lighting for the shows. And that was my job. And I really enjoyed it. I really loved working at Knott's Berry Farm. It was wonderful. My coworkers were amazing. So many that I can't even, just thinking about them gets me all teary because I really, really, really cared about all of the people that I worked with and partied with, man. I mean, we partied and we hung out all the time. I had a band with a bunch of coworkers. We played ska music in the late 90s in Orange County. And that was so much fun. I had an amazing time. I was living a life that I enjoyed, even if it wasn't I wasn't exactly, serving the world. I was just kind of like being me. And September 11th happened. September 11th, 2001. I was the daytime crew lead, shift lead for regular, what they call day operations at the park. So the little shows that go on every day all require operators, and there's one shift lead that takes care of all of those operators to make sure that they have everything that they need to make sure that all those shows go off on time and and that's what I was doing at the time. And for those familiar with Knott's Berry Farm, they do this huge annual Halloween event that now begins like at the beginning of September, but back then it began at the beginning of October. So you had a month to build it from Labor Day on. So most of the people in my department were building this Halloween event at night, including my roommate at the time, who was a really great guy. He ran the lighting. I think he was running the lighting crew that year. And what happened that morning was I woke up early to go to work. And I came out into the living room and my roommate was sitting there just transfixed on the TV. And I looked and I saw the images. And one of the towers, I think it was the South Tower. I forget now exactly how it all went down. But one of the towers was ablaze. Smoke coming out of it. And I was like, what are you watching, man? And he took a drag off his cigarette and he said, I'm watching the news. And I sat down and I started watching with him, and we saw the second plane crash into the other tower. And it was insane. It was crazy. It was a crazy moment to witness. And we sat there transfixed. And my phone rang. My cell phone rang as we were watching this. And it was my boss who told me that I needed to go in and call everyone off work because they were going to close the amusement park for the day. At the time, nobody had any idea how many planes were in the air, what was the story behind any of this. You know, were there 20 planes? Were there 50 planes? Basically, they shut down all air travel. They just shut it down, diverted all flights back to where they came from, said, everybody put those planes on the ground. Which was the smart thing to do. I went into work and I called all of the people that were supposed to come in that day, and I told them, do not come in. The park is closed. We will call you as soon as there's some update to when we will reopen. That really affected me. That really changed the way I looked at my job. It changed the way I felt about being in this place. We were classified as a high interest target. I don't remember what exactly the phrase was. High value target. Because we were a place that, you know, on any given day might have as many as 50 or 60,000 people in it, in a relatively small area, which makes you, you know, an ideal target for a terrorist attack, apparently. Makes sense, I guess. They instituted a whole lot of new security measures in the aftermath. They did it all very, very quickly. I don't think that we talked much about how it made us feel or how it affected us. I can tell you this. That summer, Knott's Berry Farm, which was a non-union house, had a couple of guys, a few guys, but several people getting together and trying to organize and join the union, which was like, we were a non-union house. They had always threatened that if you ever got together a vote on the union, that they would fire everybody and, you know, whatever. I don't know if the threats were legal or what, but I would not have been a part of that because I was a shift lead. I would not have been a part of the leader of the union. I would have been considered a supervisor. And so Knott's enlisted me, my bosses enlisted me to help warn everybody that this was not going to be tolerated. And I did. And I did it not because I didn't believe in what they were doing, not because I don't like unions. I do. Collective bargaining is really important. The problem was real simple. They had played this hand very poorly, and they had poorly timed it. And they didn't get the backing of the union first, which is where you have to start with that. But I told them, I told my employees, I said, this is a dangerous road that you guys are going down, because you could lose your jobs. If you think they won't fire everyone and replace you with ride operators, you're wrong. And ultimately they changed course and they decided against it. So that was in the background. And my bosses did not take what I said to them to heart, which was, you may have gotten away with them not voting this time, but you didn't. You have to change the culture here by listening to them and starting to help these people who work really hard for you. You have to make the conditions better for them. And they never listened to me on that. And I floated through the next couple months, just floated through. Well, it was early November. I made it through the Halloween haunt, the event. And I was sitting there on break. I was breaking someone. We were doing haunt strike, so everything's being struck. And I was helping out somebody who was at Country Dancing USA, which was an thing we did in the middle of the park. And they set up these little barricades, and everybody came out and they danced, line dancing. It was really hot at the time. Everybody loved doing it. But I was giving somebody their lunch. The person who was out there, just you had to sit at the board and kind of ride the faders because their CD level was always all over the place, and sometimes their mics would go crappy and blah. You have to help them out. So I was giving somebody their break, and one of my bosses came out, and he came into the booth with me, and he was just talking about how, basically he was giving me a hard time. Give me a hard time about this, that, or the other, and told me that he was taking the schedule away from me. I did the scheduling for the whole department. Said he wanted to take over the schedule from me because he wanted to learn how to do it. And I said, you can learn how to do it without taking it away from me. And he was like, no, I want to do it myself. And I was just like, all right, fine. So the person I was breaking came back from their lunch, and I went to the office and I wrote up my resignation letter, and I said, this is my 30-day notice. I'm leaving Knott's Berry Farm. I printed it out. I took it right into that same boss's office, and I put it right on his desk in front of him. Then I turned to walk away, and he said, Trent, do you want to talk about this? And I said, no. This was because I was lost, but I knew where I didn't want to be. I didn't agree with the way they handled the union. I didn't agree with the way they handled the 9/11 aftermath. We weren't being listened to. And I think I was just kind of heartbroken. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I didn't want to be there anymore. That's why I gave myself 30 days. Are you kidding me? I'm not stupid. But for 30 days, they didn't believe I would do it. I called my mother, who was staying with my grandparents at the time in Oklahoma. And I said, I'm leaving this job. I can't do it anymore. I don't know what to do. And she said, come here and help me take care of your grandparents. And they had a little shop. It was like a little workshop out behind the house. And they converted it into a little studio apartment for me. I actually helped. I helped with the carpentry, the plumbing, we all kind of just did it. But I said, yeah. And I spent 7 months there, and I helped take care of my grandparents. And it was the last extended amount of time that I spent with them. And it was wonderful. It was a reset for me. I needed it. 9/11 changed the way I looked at the world. the 26-year-old kid realized that there was more to it than what I was doing. And I don't know if that happens to everybody, but it happened to me. And in December of that year, I got a phone call from one of my other roommate at the time. They were having a party, a big party. And all the people were over. All the people were over. And he said, we're celebrating. And I said, why are we celebrating? He said, because they fired everybody. They fired all non-essential employees, all the non-permanents, all the people that they could get away with firing because of the union thing. The thing that I told them would happen if they went forward happened anyway. And I don't know that I've ever admitted this, but in that moment, I felt as guilty as I've ever felt about stopping someone from doing something that they wanted to do. They should have had that vote. If that was going to be the ultimate outcome anyway, they should have had that vote. I had assurances that they wouldn't do that. But they did. 9/11 changed me. The all of the stuff around it that happened to me, that changed me. And it made me pay a whole lot more attention to a lot of things that before then I hadn't paid any attention to at all. I stopped being the kid that I always wanted to be, that I didn't get to be when I was a kid because my parents divorced when I was 8. And I became the man of the house, and I cooked meals, and I did repairs. I fixed toilets. I mowed lawns. I helped my mom whenever I could until I became a quote unquote adult. And then I started behaving like a total jackass. And I behaved like a total jackass for 8 or 9 years. I was getting revenge on the world for not letting me be a kid. So I was a grown-up that acted like a kid. And then 2001 summer into the tragedy of 9/11, into the aftermath, and I was not a kid anymore. And you don't get to go back. I loved those people who got fired. They were friends, they were coworkers, they were companions. I mean, people that I did everything with. They were my family in California, the only family I had. My first wife had remarried and moved my daughter to the East Coast. They were those people that I worked with and hung out with all the time, those friends of mine, that was all I had. We never dealt with any of it. We never dealt with the pain of all that stuff, having all that hanging over your head. And then, we lived through COVID. And I got to be honest, I felt like I watched a whole bunch of people go through the same shit. We didn't deal with the trauma. It was politicized. We went to war. Should we have gone after Al-Qaeda? Yeah. Should we have allowed them to convince us to go into Iraq to finish Dad's war for George W.? No. A lot of blood and treasure was wasted because we allowed the hottest heads to rule the day. So I just wanted to take a minute on September 11th to remember all of the victims of the day, which were so many, 3,000. They read the names of everyone who perished in the World Trade Center collapses every year on this anniversary. I was watching that earlier, and it's powerful stuff. There have been movies made about it. We're not supposed to forget. Those are all good things and amazing. But there's also something that we don't talk about. There's something that we as a society just seem to be incapable of dealing with. And that's that when we feel trauma and we feel tragedy, we're supposed to deal with it. We're supposed to process it. We're supposed to understand it. We're supposed to teach ourselves how to let go of some of it so that it doesn't hang over your head all the time. Mental health is real. It's a real thing that we need to take care of. We need to take care of not just the victims of tragedies like this, but the families that surround them. Every mass shooting, we think about it. Oh my goodness, there's 17 children died in Parkland, Florida. But every other kid in that school was traumatized for life. For life. "9/11 traumatized the country. COVID-19 and the pandemic traumatized the country. And in both situations, we've had leadership that was, we'll just say, not up to the challenge. And right now, what we're going through right now with the polarization of this country and the rise of fascists, we've got troops in the streets, man. We have ICE agents kidnapping people indiscriminately. This is not the America we're supposed to have. With political leaders being assassinated. And political pundits being assassinated as of yesterday. And the person in charge is the same person that was in charge during the pandemic who said, it's not a big deal, it'll go away in 2 weeks. Who said, you don't have to wear masks, it's ridiculous. Who said, the vaccine will cure it all. The man who told us to inject bleach into our systems to clean it out. That person is back in charge in this moment, which is 10 times more dangerous than that moment. Whew. We need to learn to deal with these things better. Me included. But that's how we evolve. Learning from our mistakes. Learning from our failures. Learning from our missteps. So that we don't repeat them. Sometimes we do repeat them. And those are the moments when I just say, man, we should have been paying attention the first time. Donald Trump never should have been reelected. All the warning signs were there. To make a long story short, this is an important date in our country's history, in our shared experience. And it's good to remember the fallen and the positivity that all of those people had in their lives before they were viciously taken away. But man, we were able to rally around the campfire and say, hey, we're going to go get the guys who are the perpetrators. But we weren't willing to take care of the people who suffered in the aftermath. I remember Jon Stewart having to go to Congress time and time again to get authorization to take care of the first responders who continue to get sick and die from 9/11 related injuries. Hello. Why does he have to do that? Why are we not taking care of those people who risked everything to try to save as many lives as they could? I pride myself now, 24 years later, on being mindful, thinking, processing, showing empathy, feeling empathy, understanding. There comes a time in everyone's life where you can make that choice. Some people were born feeling empathy. Some people were raised with it. Bless you. I was raised in survival mode. I don't want my kids to go through that survival mode. I want them to thrive and understand and have context for the way the world works and know that their place in it is important no matter what it is. The little things that you do mean the world to someone. So do them. Give someone a gift. Say they look nice. Open a door for a stranger. Volunteer. Do something. Clean up trash. I clean up trash. It gives me time to think. Be the person that you want to be. The best version of it. And don't feel bad when you feel like you need to talk about things. I did for a long time, and I wish I hadn't. Because that's how we grow. There's going to be 2 episodes today. This one and then the next one. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Share my show with a friend, please. And every day, remember to be a good human. It's the least we can do. We all deserve it. Love you all. Till next time.